And when the warriors, old people sent the warriors over to Thickabila's camp, of course, to tell him they were going hunting and would he like to come with them, he just moaned and groaned, see, and they just heard him carrying on, so they walked back to the old people and said, "Now Pickabila won't be able to come hunting with us this time. He's very sick. He's in pain, in lots of pain." So the old fellow said, "Oh, well, don't worry." He said, "Whatever we catch, we'll bring it home and cook it, and we'll share it with Thickabila's family." So off they went hunting, and because the food was getting scarce, they could go for 2 or 3 days without getting anything, walking long distances. So what they caught anyway was an emu. And they ended up bringing that emu back to camp and preparing it, dug a big hole to cook it in, because the emu cannot be cooked on open fire. It's got to be cooked in a big hole, completely covered. And when they got back, they sent the warrior back over to camp saying to see how Pickabila was, but he pretended he was still sick and rolling around his camp all the time, still moaning and groaning. So they said, "Oh, well, we'll cook the emu and we'll save some for Pickabila for his family." So after they got the hole dug and the fire going in the hole to warm the hole, and on the outside, because they needed plenty of coals to cook the emu, and when they cooked the emu anyway, the old people, after it was covered over, they went away from camp. They went away from camp to have a meeting. They never ever had a meeting. No decision was made in the camp. They went right away, sat out in the bushes, and because the emu took 3 to 4 hours to cook, they wouldn't even bother coming back to camp in between times, see. But old Pickabila, he knew that the emu would take a long time to cook, see. So he's rolling around his camp, but he's watching the sun setting. As the sun's going down, he's judging the time and everything when the porcupine, the emu would be cooked. And anyway, just as the sun was sitting on the horizon on the mountain, he jumped up and he raced over. He took the emu out of the hole and he cut the legs off and he ran the legs back to his family. See, he said, "Here, eat this up." So his family got stuck into the legs of the emu. He got a branch off the tree and he walking backwards with the branch, wiping out his tracks so they wouldn't see who stole the meat. But he also left the top part of the emu, his rib part, just open near the hole. So when the old people came back, when it was time to take the emu out, they got with inside the camp. See, and the old clever fellow, he could see straight away that something was wrong. He saw the ribs of the emu on top of the hole, saying it shouldn't have been there. So he raced over the camp and he's singing out, "Thief, thief, thief." "Run, boys," he said, "we got a thief in the camp." So when the boys all ran around, they couldn't see anything. They seen the meat there, but they couldn't see any tracks or anything. And anyway, they had a bit of a meeting there at the hole. They said, Pickabila, he never came hunting with us. He was too sick, they said, and yet someone stole our meat, but there's no tracks. And the old clever fellow, he said to them, "Run throughout the camp and see if you can find the tracks of who stole our meat." So all the young warriors, the hunters, they all raced throughout the camp with their spear, but they couldn't see any tracks. So they came back and told the old clever fellow. And anyway, he said, "I think I know who stole our meat," he said. "You look at Thickabila's family, all fat and happy looking." He said, "You look at our people. They're all skinny and miserable because they haven't had a feed for a while." And Pickabila, because he's lying on the ground, so he can pick up the sound coming along what they were saying. So as soon as he heard his name mentioned, he jumped up and took off running into the thick scrub, the mallee. And the old fellow yelled out to the young warriors, "After him, boys, after him. He's got to be punished because he stole from his people." So Pickabila got right into the thick scrub, see, and the old people sent the warriors after him with their spears. But because he was a cunning man, he had a whistle, like a whistle, that used to come up behind clumps of trees all around the back of the boys, and they'd race back to where they heard this whistle, see. And the old fellow said, don't worry about the whistle, keep going, he's ahead of you. So the boys turned around and started following, working their way into the middle of the mallee, then the thick scrub. And the old fellows waited out in the clearing, that old clever fella. And when they come back, they couldn't see him. See, he said they couldn't see him, but the old fella called them back. He said, come back here, all ears. Come back out here. So he lit a fire. He said, now grab your fire sticks, he said, and race right around the mallee. We'll set a light to the mallee and surround the Pickabila with fire. So they set a light to the mallee, and as the smoke and the flames were getting in closer and closer to the Pickabila, his whistle was getting weaker and weaker in the middle of the fire. So the old fellow picked his spear up. He said, that's him. He said, Pickabila's still ahead of us, right in the middle of the fire. So he said, when I throw my spear in, you throw all your spears in behind me, and we'll pin him. He said, I'll pin him, and then you throw all your spears in. So the young people threw their spears, and the old fellow threw his first and broke his leg, pinned his legs. And they threw all their spears in, and the old Pickabila, then he couldn't get out, see? So he got burnt in the fire. And the old fellow said, now come on, come back to the clearing, we'll sit down and wait. So they went back to the clearing, a little big clay pan, they're sitting there and they're waiting and waiting until all the flames, the smoke was gone, everything was gone. And they saw this little low crawling animal then coming out of the fire. And the old clever fellow said, that's him, he said, that's Pickabila. He said, when I pinned him in the fire, he said, I put a curse on him, that his spirit would come back in the form of that low-crawling animal, never to look up any more to see what people were eating, to steal from them. And forevermore he's got to forage in the ground, look in the ground for his food, and that's to eat the termites and ants and so forth like that. And this Pickabila today is the porcupine, because all the spears on the spikes on his back are all the different colour spears they threw into him. His two back feet don't face the same as his front, they point back because the old fellow broke his legs, pinned him in at the foot, at the ankle, he pinned him in the fire there. And you can be tracking Pickabila back to front today and you wouldn't know it. You've got to be really conscious of Pickabila and his tracks. Otherwise you can go backwards and he could be ahead of you. But when you're getting close to him, he'll just give a loud shriek, and if you're on a sand dune, he'll just disappear straight down into the sand. And yeah, and it's really hard to get him out too. So that's the story of Pickabila, and that story is telling us never to steal, always be a good supporter of our families, and get involved and share, you know. And that's what the story is telling us today. Yes.